Hello everybody, my name is Ilya.
And my name is Tyler. Together we make up Calvary, a couple that loves to play board games.
And we love to share the games that we play.
Especially with each other.
And when there are two of us,
we get to play a lot of two-player games.
So today we're going to take a look at 10 new to us two-player games that you should check out.
Yep, we're going to do a rewind because as some of you may not know, we recently, or almost a year ago I guess, we did a two-player month where we covered over 50 different two-player games.
Two-player only.
And now we've got more that we want to talk about.
So in this video we'll tell you about the games, what the wow factor is of each of the games, and hopefully we find one that piques your interest.
Yes, because there are definitely some in this. Well, actually, I think all of them in this have piqued my interest. But who knows? I don't know where they would rank on my top 10 two-player game list.
What? How do you not know?
I don't know. I have an idea of a couple of them, but who knows?
Oh, will some of them make it in the top 10?
Oh, well, depends on when we have to remake that list.
Oh, interesting. Well, why don't we get started? So it is now spring and the ice has de-thawed. So today I want to talk about winter.
Because it is long past.
Well, I don't know, it snowed today, so I wouldn't. So winter is a game from Devere Games, and essentially in this game, it's a card game only. I think there's only 18 cards if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And there's a set amount of cards and tokens. And basically what you're trying to do is you're building up, you're thawing the ice. No, you're making the ice.
Yeah.
What's opposite of thaw? What? De-thaw? No, de-thaw is still thaw.
You're thawing out the ice.
But that's thawing it is melting it. But how do I unmelt it? You're building up the ice to make a nice ice structure by playing cards in different spots. And then each of you has your own different color. And the really cool element of this game is that once you've built it all up and used all your cards, it's now time to de-thaw. And you're trying to be the player who has their token, last token standing on the board. Yeah. But the tricky thing is as cards come off, tokens can come off as well. Because on your turn, you either take off an empty card, take off a token,
or move things.
Swap things, yeah. So the ice will slowly de-thaw and move. And if your token is the last one standing, you win. It's very clever, it's very thinky, and this game I feel like we've played so many times over the last few months because it's so easy to get to the table, and it makes you think quite deeply, especially when there's snow outside.
I'm not good at this game, I'll tell you that much.
But do you like it? It's
got like a chess-esque feel, which I do like, I suppose. Yeah, I like it. This one didn't wow me. I know you really liked it, and Ilya's family really liked it because we showed it to them as well. But it is an interesting game, and I do think the strategy is there. It just doesn't click in my head.
And it definitely does have that chessy, so you have to think a few steps ahead. Yeah. So if you enjoy games like that, winter might be for you.
There you go. My turn. Okay, I don't have a cool transition like Ilya does with the spring and winter thing. But I want to talk about this game called Wizards of Grimoire from Grimoire Games. For some reason, that word is very hard for me to say. Oops. Anyways, in Grimoire, in Wizards of the Grimoire, what you're going to be doing is like dueling off against each other as wizards or witches. And essentially, there's a bunch of different spells that are going to be laid out in the middle of the field, and you're going to draft these spells. Eventually you're going to get like a total of 6 spells and you'll have the opportunity to like swap in and out. But the idea is that there's another set of cards that you'll use as like mana bases, and they're used to cast your spells. And you'll use all these cards to cast your spells to try and ultimately take your opponent out. And it's a lot of fun. There's so many different spells in this game, so there's a lot of combos you can look forward to. There's defensive spells, there's utility spells, and then of course there's like attack spells. So you can kind of like decide how you want to play the game. Different spells cost different amounts of mana, so they're slower to refresh on your turn, and it's just pretty intense to have that like back and forth with one another, because eventually one of you is going to hit 0.
What's really cool too is there's ongoing effects that some of the spells have.
True.
So every turn you take mana off to essentially get closer to casting it again. But sometimes taking mana off can be partly dealing that damage if it's an ongoing spell. So the different amounts of spell where you wait and use them in immediate really creates some sort of clever strategy, and it definitely packs quite a punch of wizardry magic.
Yes, I know like the first time we were playing it definitely like was a bit overwhelming because there are so many spells.
A lot of reading.
Yeah, but once you get into it, it's really cool to then like rethink your strategy or see what you could have done differently. So I think that's like a great thing about a 2-player game is being able to come back to it right away and then play it again and better understand what you want to do. And I think Wizards of the Grimoire does it really well.
Exactly. Now, speaking of battling it out,
always with these cool transitions,
I want to talk about the new Star Wars deck building game.
Oh.
So this one's from Fantasy Flight Games, and essentially it is a deck builder where you take the role of the Empire or the Rebels.
Yes.
I am new to the Star Wars world. I recently watched them, probably in the last few years.
You already watched the original ones, have you?
I half watched them.
Oh.
So, but you know, I really like The Mandalorian. We've been watching The Mandalorian, so I've been growing more and more into this universe. And I really enjoyed this game, but essentially what you're trying to do is you're taking either the role of the Empire or the Rebels, and you're trying to take each other out. What's really cool in this game, though, is there's a collective pool of cards that you can either draft from to add to your own deck, or potentially defeat if they're your opponents to get bonuses. So every turn you're going to play your cards as you would in a deck builder, get the actions, get resources, potentially purchase new cards, or deal damage to your opponent's bases. And the goal is to destroy 3 of their bases, and once you do that, you win. And you'll have selection of bases that you can choose from as they become defeated. Yep. And you can also have big ships that will defend your bases.
Yes.
And there will be a lot of Pew Pew going on,
Pew Pew.
which is very exciting. But seeing the familiar characters that I even know is very exciting. And kind of building your deck around it makes it for a really, really good game. I really enjoyed this one. I'm curious because I know Fantasy Flight is very known for more expansions, more to the box. So I'm curious what is the next step to this, because this feels like a really
there's a lot of space in the box.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I'd be interested to see what they do add to it. The Force is also in this game, so you can like bring it to the dark side, bring it to the light side. You get benefits for having it if you're like a part of the Empire and the Force is with your side. You're good to go. Well, you get benefits for it.
Good to go.
Yeah, like Ilya said, it's cool being able to like neutralize somebody. The cards in the middle to stop the other person from getting it. I think that's a really neat mechanic. It does also remind me of Star Realms. So if you're a person that likes 2-player games and you've played Star Realms, well, in particular Star Realms, I think Star Wars, the deck builder, the deck building game, quite great. It adds that element of like, well, it's Star Wars, for example, and it's different enough that I'm definitely going to, we'll keep this on our shelf and play it.
You can make a whole 2-player theme of the galaxy. There's so many good 2-player games.
Oh, you could. Speaking of empires, because this is my way of transitioning, we're going to talk about It's a Wonderful Kingdom. Yay! So this one's from Lucky Duck Games, and essentially you're building your duchy. I think it's like an estate, your kingdom. And you want to do this through a variety of drafting rounds. And what you're going to do is you'll have your own hand, the main board, and then your opponent will also have their hand. But the cool thing is when you play cards, your opponent drafts cards. So you're trying to strategically play your hand so that your opponent takes maybe a side that you don't necessarily want, or you want to give them a bunch of cards to make it more valuable for them to take a side that you're maybe aiming to not grab. There's a bunch of different set collection type-esque goals in this game that you're going to be going for, and it's very fun to like stack those points as you're going through the game. There's a lot of resource generation that's going on in this game that helps you almost like push forward this little engine that you're going to be building, which makes the game start off slow, but really build up as you progress through the game because it gets more and more intense. and there's more and more like value that's going into every single card that you end up drafting.
I really like, we haven't played a ton of games with the I pick, you choose mechanic.
True.
So yeah. I was pleasantly surprised by this one, and we haven't played It's a Wonderful World.
No,
but now I really want to, if it's anything similar to this game, because there's just, the marriage of a lot of these mechanics was really just smooth. Like the fact, like the drafting the cards, the way your engine really builds up, the way you manage the resources and plan ahead, it was just really clever, and I really liked it every time, because every turn you're placing those cards, you're thinking, please don't pick the one that I need. Yeah. And then Tyler picks, I'm like, no, I purposely tried to give you this one and you didn't.
Yeah, and you can kind of like mess players up by giving them like the worst card, or like hiding the card that you're playing down. So that's like a lot of fun too. It's it ends up being like pretty high scoring games, which is a lot of fun as well.
And last but certainly not least is there's modules in this game.
True.
So there's ways to scale up the game, make it more complex. There's a ton of game in this game, and I was quite in awe of it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to play more of this game. I'm surprised we haven't. There's a solo mode in it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised we haven't played more of it, to be honest. And we played.
I guess it's not a strictly 2-player game.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Oops.
Next game.
Well, in Kingdoms, there can only be one victor. Just like
2-player, every 2-player game.
In Unmatched, Houdini versus the Genie, there can only be one great magician out there.
Oh.
So Unmatched is a system where essentially 2 characters battle it out to see who is the superior character. There is so many different characters in the Unmatched universe.
And you can mix and match.
And you can mix and match. And you can actually play with more than 2 players. But the reason we want to talk about it is that they have like a few 2-player only boxes. So you're able to play with those characters 2 players, but you're also able to throw them into bigger games with more players. But because this is a 2-player only box, we thought we'd talk about the Houdini and Genie.
I love the theme of this game.
Magic is really cool,
yes.
And the cover is really beautiful, but essentially what you're trying to do is you either take the role of Houdini or the Genie, and you're trying to battle it out using cards. So every turn you'll play cards to traverse across the map and try to deal damage to your opponent.
Yes.
When you attack, you'll be able to potentially defend, you'll be potentially able to maneuver, and with both the Genie and Houdini, there's a lot of trickery.
Yes.
Up both of their sleeves. Their cards are extremely thematic, with the Genie being able to grant wishes, being able to draw more cards and kind of
future see almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where Houdini takes the role of the sleight of hand, because you never quite know where he's going to appear, what he's going to do. With his assistant present as well, anything can happen. Yes. So generally, there's a few other cool elements in the map, such as secret passages. There's a lot of elevation in this game, and if you enjoy head-to-head games where you're battling and trying to outsmart your opponent, definitely check out any of the Unmatched games. They're incredibly well done, and there's more and more content that comes out, so you can really get in there.
Yeah.
And last thing I'll mention, just to do that, is this game has one of the best miniatures out of miniature games.
I do like.
They have really high quality miniatures that just make you fall in love with them, and I really want to paint them.
I think from all of my experiences, I mean, we haven't played all of the Unmatched, but Houdini is probably one of my favorite characters. He's like the way that you can boost your cards and do the trickery where you can basically play a card, bounce it back to your hand, and then play a different card based on what your opponent's playing. I think is very, very clever. It's very, very thematic, like Ilya was saying. And yeah, I think they nailed it on the dot with the theme and the deck mechanics that are built into both of these characters. And yeah, I really enjoy it.
And I believe this actually was part of a fan design contest. And this is the one that won. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that this was a fan design and there was a really long kind of through process. So this is the one that won, and I can see why it won, because it's generally very, very good.
Yeah. If it wasn't even that, like regardless, just job well done on this one.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, speaking of dueling, I'm going to put so much effort into these transitions, it's not going to be funny. We're going to talk about Splendor Duel from Space Cowboys. Splendor Duel is a 2-player version game of the famous Splendor game, and it very much is reminiscent of that game. You're going to be collecting gems, trying to build up your engine so that you can collect even higher valued cards, which will give you even more engine building, which just goes on and on and on until the game ends in one of 3 ways. The neat thing about this game is because it's like a head-to-head game, there is also like this board in the middle that's got this snake maze type thing. It just goes from the center outwards, spirals outwards, but that's like a setup piece where now that you'll be able to collect your gems from that as well, and it adds some uniqueness to the 2-player version on top of just providing a different experience overall. I think that Splendor Duel keeps true to the Splendor game, but also offers a unique like gameplay with the 2-player version.
Yeah, it's a very high quality game. It definitely gives me vibes of Seven Wonders Duel, because when that game came out, there's also multiple ways to win. It's very strategic. It's every move matters, and this game feels very similarly. So it definitely is one, and I love the component quality in this game. It's a very high quality game. Yeah. So if you enjoy strictly 2-player games, if you love Splendor, this is the one that you should definitely check out.
Yes. Yeah. Would definitely recommend Splendor Duel.
Now, after dueling it out for so long, you're gonna get hungry and you're gonna want a meal. So why not get some beer and bread?
Oh my goodness. I'm obviously not as good as Ilya at this transition thing, so.
Well, this one is published by Print Games and Capstone Games, and basically it's a 2-player game where you're trying to fulfill numerous contracts through resource collection. This game is played in 6 rounds, and basically there's some rounds where the conditions are dry, and it's like the dry season.
Yes.
And then there's some where everything is luscious and lots of things are being produced. But what's really neat about this game is it's a multi-use card game. Yes. So you'll have cards every round, and you're able to play them and use them in one of the 3 ways. You're able to gain resources, you're able to fulfill contracts using those resources to score points for the end of the game, or you're able to get some powers.
Yeah.
So as the game progresses, you're playing the various 6 rounds. And the other factor of this game that I absolutely love when games do this is at the end of the game, you'll score separately for beer and for bread.
Yes.
And the lesser of your scores is your full score. So you kind of have to balance throughout the game and make sure you're able to fulfill both the contracts, because if you don't, you just won't win, because no matter how many points you get in one category, if you don't kind of balance it out.
Oh well.
But I love the vibrancy of this game, the components. It just feels so good on the table. And I feel like anything that Print with Capstone does together has been really good so far. I'm thinking like of Rift Force. Like that was a phenomenal 2-player game. Yeah. So I'm really excited to see more and more 2-player games come out of this partnership.
Yeah, I really like the balance between like having to get beer and bread. I mean, it speaks obviously to the name of the game, but the balance between paying attention to even like what your opponent is trying to score is also important, because you kind of hide your contracts away when you're done. And obviously like there's beer contracts and bread contracts, and their variety or varying scores. So you not only have to pay attention to yours, but it eventually, after playing it a few times, becomes apparent that you need to be paying attention to like what else is going on the other side of the board, and that makes for a more fun experience.
Play the player, play the game.
Transition, wonderful transition. Now on to Nicodemus. So this game is quite interesting in theme, let me tell you that. I want to get this right. It's called a Bric-a-brac Machine, Bric-a-brac Machine, and essentially you're an assistant to this fellow named Nicodemus Gideon, and he is
retiring.
Yeah, he's basically done, but he's been doing this for like 352 years, it says. Anyways, you're dueling it out with your opponent, and the whole idea is you're using this machine called the Bric-a-brac, and it really is just like a dueling machine. It's intended to like put you up against each other and find out who's going to be the winner. The art in this is absolutely phenomenal because it's so out there. I love it so much. Like, I'm staring at a shark wearing glasses with like giant eyebrows, and I think that's hilarious. But essentially what you're going to be doing in this game is building through this, what's the track called?
The bric-a-brac?
No, like it's like a conveyor belt.
Oh, right.
So you're going to be placing cards onto a conveyor belt, activating their abilities based on like the symbols that are on the card, and then also like trying to develop your board so you can score the goals that are available. There's a variety of different colored cards, and those cards will be able to give you those cards will help you complete your goals. And the way you get those goals is by activating the abilities on the cards or simply collecting resources based on what is on the card as well. You use those resources to grab those cards, and it gets a little bit complicated when there's more cards in the conveyor belts, especially when it's on the bottom row as well. But
get out of there.
Yeah, and then you've got to pay like extra resources kind of thing. But essentially, you're going to just be drafting and trying to resource manage and collect these cards to complete these goals. It's really wacky. I like it a lot, and yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the theme is just so interesting. The fact that you're just trying to collect all these different cards, and all of them have different abilities per se too. So you have to pay attention to the abilities, the types for the goals. At the same time, not get distracted by the really bizarre art on each of these games, because they're all like kind of mecha animals. That are trying, and part of the scientific research, because you're trying to take up Nicodemus's role by being that really good researcher.
Well, it's Nicodemus. He had 352 years of good and loyal service at the Dream Factory.
He makes dreams come true.
That's what it is,
really. And sometimes a dream is a shark with a mustache.
Shark and glasses. Amazing. But definitely worth checking out. I think it's an interesting like drafting resource type management game where you've got to complete these goals. Almost like it has set collection in it too, because that's how you complete your goals. Mm-hmm. And it's been a lot of fun.
Well, with some strange animals around, I think let's talk about some grizzly bears in Maw Peak. So Maw Peak is the sequel to the very popular Skull Hollow, which is also a 2-player only game. Mm-hmm. And basically in this game, you'll take the role of either the Grizzar, which is the tribe of grizzly bears, or the frozen creatures that are big and scary, and you don't want to deal with them because they're spooky.
Yes.
But generally, there's an area control aspect in this game. There's a fight, pow type of this game. It's driven through playing cards. Mm-hmm. But essentially, as a Grizzar, you'll work to climb onto the big beast and defeat them in various ways by making it harder for it to do actions, by canceling out various of the spots, by sending your people there and jumping onto it. But it's a very thematic game in a way that you really do feel like everyone's coming together and trying to take this monstrosity down. And what's really cool is this game is asymmetric. Yes. Both of the characters play significantly different, and there is more than one big bad.
Yeah,
Guardians. The big frozen guardians.
Yes. They're not as bad as Ilya makes them seem, because you do get to play as them, and like as the guardian, you're trying to just like protect yourself, get these
and destroy
the
poor land of the Grizzar.
Take back your lands, however you want to play it. There's like a duking out that has to happen, right? And it's very much created in this asymmetrical dueling game. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just extremely well designed. In my opinion, I think the way that you play the cards and the actions that you do take, there's a lot of back and forth, and you are able to limit each other based on the movement, based on where you are, based on how you shake the little Grizzar off of you. There's just a lot of variety too as you play with the different characters. Mm-hmm. So if you enjoy games with a lot of that asymmetric, we never quite know what the other person is going to do, this game may be for you.
Well, and the fantastic thing about that is it's a 2-player game, so you don't have to worry about anybody else except for you and the person you're playing against, which means you don't have to understand how 3 other players have to play this game. It's just you against another person.
It's a really good intro into asymmetric character type games, because I really struggle with that coming into a game and then only knowing what I'm doing and everyone else is doing something different. Yeah. So this is a great way, because you only really need to know the other person.
Yeah, and I think like it goes along well with the transition into the game even more, because you can combine Malpeak and Skull Hollow to play a 4-player game, which I think is very unique in a sense where now you can combine 2 games that are very similar, don't get me wrong, but B, now there's 2 2-player games, but also a 4-player game where you can play like 2v2, and I think you can do a free-for-all as well. So, or is it just a 2v2? I think it's just a 2v2. Yeah. Either way, it becomes a 4-player game, and that's, I think, really neat, but it still has those asymmetric abilities, which makes it easier to transition into that space.
Yeah, Pencil First Games did a really good job with this.
Can you believe we're at number 10 already?
Yeah.
Look what I did.
A transition?
We're gonna talk about, that's not how you say it, but we're gonna talk about Lofo 10. Oh, I think it's Lofoten. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but this one is a game by Pearl Games, and essentially what you're doing is you're a Viking tribe, and you're trying to complete your goals or like do better in the goals that are laid out. Because it is whoever does the best at delivering the goods gets the most points kind of thing.
Who's the better Viking?
Yes. But the cool thing about this game is there's a bunch of these cards, but you're only ever going to have 3 in your hand. You play your right card, your left card, or your middle, and they all do different things. Your left card will allow you to move on the board left or rotate your ships left. And if your ship is facing towards you, or the ships that are facing towards you, you can load up with a goal that you would like to achieve, and that's what the middle card is for. You can play the middle card into your ship, so then now you know that that ship is collecting sheep, for example. The other way is if it's facing towards the goods board and it has a card in it and they match, then you get to load your ship with that good. The good has varying numbers on it, I think from 1 to 4. But regardless, you have to now deliver that. Because once you deliver it, you're going to put it up into the place where it helps you score, and whoever has the highest scoring points in that particular area will score the top score for that. And then you just keep on playing and playing and playing until all the goods are gone, and hopefully by then you've successfully managed to like grab victory.
What I really like about this game is that everyone sees what's in the middle, and you can see what both the players need, especially if they've loaded up their goals. So it's a very much of a race of trying to get things before your opponent does, and sometimes competing, or sometimes going to the very opposite side and hoping that something else comes up.
Or discarding the card or the tile they need, because there's abilities on cards that do things.
That's true.
And yeah, it's very, very fun.
But it's a very clever, I've never seen kind of the ship mechanic of like the movement of it, like rotating and shipping and delivering. It felt very unique and felt very fresh. I really enjoyed the game, and I also really, really like the art in this game and the presentation for it.
Yeah, I think it is really cool. Like it is it's like a pickup and delivery game, and it is a head-to-head, but it's also got this way of it does have to take that moments for sure, because you can get rid of clearly items that your opponent are going for. I think that it adds that cool element, especially in 2-player games, because there's nobody else that you can impact besides the other player.
True.
So you don't have a choice. There should be no hard feelings. Maybe there will be, but that's okay.
That's the Viking life.
Exactly. And maybe some other 2-player games that exist out there. But that's Lovi10.
And that's been 10 2-player games.
Wow. 10 new to us 2-player games.
Now we've covered over 60.
Over 60. That's a lot of 2-player games.
What's your favorite?
Aqualin. It's still
It has
Aqualin.
not been dethroned.
I am sorry, but it is still Aqualin.
I agree. That game is just so good.
Yes.
But have you played any of these 10? What 2-player only games have you been enjoying? We'd love to hear from you, because we'll definitely be doing another 10 as soon as we accumulate 10 more.
Yes, and maybe eventually we'll have to do a re-roll. Well, it's easier when we're
reseat.
Yeah. We'll do a reset of our top 10, because maybe they've changed. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of solid contenders in this one. I'm curious to see if they will be in our top 10. What's your favorite out of the 10?
Oh, I think it's actually Splendor, Duel, or Wizards of the Grimoire.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think mine would be Winter.
That's fair.
I like the simplicity of it, of how easy it is to play, but like how much strategy it packs in that little box.
Yeah, you did really like that game.
Well, let us know in the comments down below one of those questions of the day that we had of either which of these games have you played and what are your thoughts on them, or are there any 2-player games you'd want to tell us about, because we always love learning from you.
Yes, we want more 2-player games because it is we usually play 2-player. We definitely have like groups that come over and we'll play some other player games, but it's easy to just grab games off of the shelf, especially when they're 2-player games, because they're intended for 2 players, and it's great when they do that.
And we have a special 2-player shelf, and it has a plant on it.
We do. Well, until next time, though, thanks so much for watching, and we appreciate everything that you folks do for us. So we will see you in the next one where we're talking about more board games.
More board games?
Yeah.
Bye.